So this is probably one of the most important videos I've ever made. And I really hope you stay to the end and just let me finish the story, because it's really, really important. And you don't see this online very much. And it has to do with shame, like, guilt, shaming ourselves, negative self-talk. I'm not a good person. I'm ugly. I'm whatever your shame pattern is. There's so much misunderstanding out there, especially in spiritual communities, as to how to deal with shame, or how to bring healing to that area. Um, and so I wanted to tell the story of recently, my shame and getting to the bottom of it, because I practice coherence therapy, but I also go to a coherence therapist. I have therapy done on myself. And really, after that session that I did in coherence therapy, it really solidified in my mind just how effective this is, how scary effective it is, actually. Because at the end of that session, I felt almost like the rug had been pulled out from underneath me. I felt actually quite destabilized. But I was supported in that, and I was fine after a couple of hours. But it really shook my sense of self up, and I'm going to get there. And so my shame, I guess, manifested through kind of insecurity. So I've always been the kind of person who has lacked confidence. So, like, I would be very much afraid of approaching somebody on, let's say, a dance floor, or cold approaching someone on a date, because I would always be too scared of rejection, and I would never do it. I would always try to impress people instead. And I really have built a lot of my life around trying to impress people and trying to become somebody, to show it off to people, so that I'll be accepted and that I'll be, welcomed by other people. And also, I have these moments where if I see a group of friends, or a group of friends hanging around together, or if I see like people who I would like to become friends with, again, maybe at a dance party or a house party or something, I won't go and introduce myself. I'll always stand back, and I'll get super anxious and like super insecure. And so there's just a lot of that being going on for my whole life, since as far back as like 7 or 8 years old. And so, again, I really hope you stay towards the end of this, because I wasn't expecting what was going to happen. So in the first session, we explored exactly what the problem pattern is, what we like to call it, which is this kind of shame, or this inability to approach others, or especially with people who I deem as more important. It's specifically hard around people like that. And long story short, I'm going to kind of fly through this. We did a symptom deprivation and a few other techniques, and now this is over like 3 or 4 sessions, so like 3 or 4 hours. And he got me to really imagine myself being in a club. So a concrete example, this is what we work with in coherence therapy. Now imagine yourself, but the insecurity isn't there, right? He doesn't say it like that, but imagine yourself, I want you to imagine yourself walking up to this person, cold approaching them, and the anxiety is not there, and your shoulders are back, and you're super confident, and you just go up and you start introducing yourself. You start doing all of that. So when I did that, it was hugely uncomfortable, obviously. And I was like, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that. And so that reveals the symptom coherence. So my avoidance behavior, my anxiety, was protecting me. So it was a coherent symptom that was protecting me from a deeper pain that I was predicting will happen if I didn't have that symptom. That's the essence of coherence therapy. And so I walk up to them, and I got these feelings like I was being annoying to the other people, like I'm an annoyance to them, that I'm a burden. These words kept coming up that felt really true. Like, I'm burdening them, I'm annoying them, I'm a freak to them. And that just felt so true. Like, I am that to them. I'm a freak, I'm a burden, I'm these things to these people. And again, long story short, it just tapped off a memory. And in coherence therapy, you don't need to work from memories, but in this case, it did. And when I was 6 and 7 years old, I was basically bullied. on my housing estate. I distinctly remember being my creative, crazy little self one day and trying to hang around with people who were a lot older than me. And I was being my funny, giddy self, and they just told me to, fuck off, you little freak. And I remember I had a friend who used to kind of support me. He was another older guy. He used to always like me. And I remember the other guys, they said to him, it's like, why are you hanging around with him? What are you doing? Why are you hanging around with this freak? And there's a whole bunch of other scenarios that happened. And so I learned in that moment, I really learned, little 6, 7-year-old me learned that I'm burdensome to other people, that I'm burdensome, I'm a freak, and that just established, like, it's so weird how it happens, but it established the basis for the rest of my relationships, going forward for the rest of my life. That those moments there, and so I learned that I never want to have that happen again. And I formed a solution. Little me formed a solution. I need to impress people before I approach them. I have to make sure that they like me before I approach them. And if I don't know any of those, if I don't know those two things, then I can't just cold approach them and I can't just ask them to hang out, because no, like, there's something wrong with me. I'm a freak. I'm burdening them. I'm an annoyance to them. That was a really particularly stingy one. Like, I really felt like I was annoying people by me approaching them, unless I knew that they liked me. But that's only the first layer. And this is why I wanted you to stay for the rest of the video. That was only the first layer. And then we kind of dug into, but what are you really afraid in that? What are you afraid will happen? Okay, you're predicting, that's a prediction. You're predicting that you're going to be annoying. But what happens if you're annoying, right? What happens then? And it was rejection, right? So they'll say no, and I don't want to see the rejection on their face. And then really experientially got into that. What does rejection mean? Why do you feel rejection more than other people? Like, and we just kind of I imagined being in the club again, and this person said no, or this group of friends said no. And as they said no, we were really experientially feeling into what did I feel like? And I felt like I was really small. I felt really like an outcast, like a burden, like a freak, just such a small, insignificant little person. And that was horrible. And that's kind of what I'm really avoiding. Not only am I predicting that they're not going to like me, but they are going to reject me. And that rejection is going to make me feel really small, really super insignificant. And that's embarrassing. That's like socially embarrassing. And I'm trying to avoid that at all costs. But then it just really clicked. And it was a really funny point in the session, because I started laughing. And also kind of getting very agitated in the session, like kind of anxious, kind of panicky for some reason. Because the learning came up. It was like, your rejection means that I'm small, insignificant, and a burden and a freak. Like, that's what rejection means. And it came up and I was like, wait a minute. And again, this schema, this belief that came up, like, rejection equals I'm a burden, freak, small, out. That learning was unconscious to me. That's just kind of what it felt like, what I was predicting kind of unconsciously would happen. But it clearly came up. It was like, being rejected means 100% that I am small, burdensome freak who's going to be socially ostracized. And the wheels began spinning in my head. And this to me is what the start of a juxtaposition feels like. It's like, wait a minute. Is that true? Is that true? And I couldn't, I kept fumbling over my words, and I kept laughing, kind of like I was nervously laughing. I was like, is that true? This is what rejection means. Where did I learn that? I learned that there. Wait, is that true? I was like, okay. But then we went a layer deeper, a layer deeper. And it was like, what happens if you let go of that shame? Or the way it was asked was, imagine yourself going up to this group of people and they've rejected you, but now you just stand there with your shoulders back. And rejection doesn't mean that you're a freak, you're a burdensome, you're this or you're that. And at first I was like, well, that would feel good. I actually imagined myself getting angry at them, and I was like, yeah, that'd feel good. I'd feel confident. I'd feel, good. And he said, let's just try that a couple more times. And I tried then just letting go of that. Rejection equals there's something wrong with me. I'm a burden. I'm a freak. It's something wrong with me. And I sat with it, and the words that came up then was, well, what the hell do I do then? I looked at the coherence therapist and his smile on his face, and he was nodding his head, and I was like, what do I do if I don't have that? And then it came up, the other thing that came up was, then who the hell am I? And then it hit me like a bus. And that's when I started to get like a little bit freaked out and a little bit like even just panicky a little bit more. It's like, who am I? If I wait, no, it's not true. Rejection doesn't mean this is who I am, and I'm actually not a burden to people. Then who am I? I have no idea who I am, because this is who I've been for my whole life. And to let this go would be a shocking loss of a familiar identity pattern. And it was just like, whoa. It just felt very, very significant. And again, the wheels were turning in my head like crazy. And I just finally saw the absolute bottom of this whole thing. It was not only that I had learned that I'm a burden, I'm a freak to other people. I'd learned that rejection means that I am small and insignificant, but also that I was in some way subconsciously holding on to that shame and to that pattern of shame, because it's so familiar. It's been so familiar to me for my whole life, and letting that go feels like annihilation. It feels like I'll be killed because it's a part of who I am. And so that's the depths that coherence therapy can go to. And that's the depth it went with me. And after that session, it was, very weird. But I was kind of, I practiced this, so I kind of knew exactly what to do. But then I just started thinking of myself, well, who am I then? Who am I without this? And I started to relax a bit because, well, I'm just me. I'm just me every time I'm not shaming myself or I'm not thinking I'm this person. And that's actually quite a nice person to be around, quite confident. I'm funny to be around. I'm enjoyable to be around. I'm talkative. I really love other people. And that's where the real juxtaposition came in. It's like, oh, okay. And then it just let go. And a part of my mind, just because of my experience with Buddhism and like non-duality and all these insane non-duality teachers online, I was like, oh my God, if I let this go, am I going to like lose my sense of self again, like completely? Am I going to like annihilate myself? I hear some spiritual teachers be like, shame is the core of identity and you need to let it go and all of this. And I was like, oh God. But no, I let it go. And what came forward was just a confident version of myself, a truer version of myself, a truer identity. And over the last few weeks, I've just been, few weeks and months, I've just been way more confident, way more extroverted, talking to so many people, making so many friends, approaching people that I'm really attracted to with very little fear. I don't think there's a such thing as having no fear, because I think there's also a natural fear of rejection that every single person has, obviously, but nowhere near the extent it was. There's always going to be a nervousness if you're attracted to someone, with everybody. But it's not stopping me anymore. I just approach people. I just talk to people. It's just not that whatever that schema was that was operating it's just not operating anymore. It's just not there. I can just approach people. I can just speak to people confidently without any of that there anymore. And so a truer, fuller, more authentic version of myself. That little 6-year-old who lost his true identity at 6 years old has come back. He's come back, and I just find myself being far more, I don't know, giddy around people, far more childlike, far more expressive, far more open. Now that I'm not having this shield of like insecurity and shame that there's, first of all, I'm annoying to people, and then that rejection means that I'm insignificant and small. But not only that, but I can't let go of that view of myself because I'll lose my familiar identity. What's under that is just who you've always wanted to be. It's who you've always wanted to be. That confident self who's not afraid of rejection and goes out and takes opportunities, because this has been literally robbing me of opportunities my whole life. Not approaching people, not asking for a raise at a job because I'm being too much. I'm being like, but no, everything changes now. And it was tough getting there, letting go of that. And for some people, it's worse. That shame wound is way worse. And letting go of a shame wound for some people can really feel like annihilation, can really feel and can be seriously destabilizing for some people. I know somebody who's experienced that. So you really have to be with the right person. You really have to do this with, work with somebody who knows what you're doing and can really regulate, and you can co-regulate. All of that is super important. So yeah, I thought I'd just share that. Just checking, is this mic still working? But yeah, that has solidified in my mind why I do this and why I practice coherence therapy, because I see moments like that in myself, but then I see it in the people I'm working with, and it's established in my mind that, for me at least, there's nothing on this earth that's more powerful than that. And that doesn't happen for everybody. That does not happen. I'm not saying that coherence therapy is a miracle cure for everything, because it's not. And there are people I've worked with and there are people who, other coherence therapists, and Bruce Ecker, who's worked with, who find extremely challenging. And this big juxtaposition experience doesn't happen after 4 sessions. It happens after 40 sessions, 50 sessions, 60 sessions, over a year. Especially when you get to really profoundly deep, complex attachment trauma, then it gets very, very difficult. So I'm not saying that coherence therapy is this magic bullet for everything, because it's absolutely not. But for a lot of things, especially what I just talked about there, it's super powerful. And I just wanted to, testify to that. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. It gave you a different perspective on shame, because there's just so much out there, like, shame is stored in the body, and you need to feel the shame in the body and release the shame energy and stuff like that. It's just none of that is true. None of that is true. You've suffered things in childhood, and you learned things from that suffering. And sometimes you get suppressed emotions in the body. That's absolutely true. That's not all the time. Those suppressed emotions do happen. But it's not the only way. There's also learnings that you formed about other people and about yourself. Okay, you learned something about reality itself, and those learnings have to be also dealt with. And sometimes people, all they need is to express those buried emotions. That's for sure, but that's not everybody. It's incomplete, in my opinion. And so it's not only about moving into the body and feeling the body. In my experience, that has never worked for me ever at producing actual lasting change, like lasting change. But it's really about getting to those predictions that you're making. If I can't shame myself right now, then ... what will happen? If I approach this person without my avoidance behavior ... then this will happen. Learnings. We have emotional learnings, not just buried emotions, but we have emotional learnings, okay, that need to be brought up into your awareness, and they need to be looked at. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any comments or questions, put them in the comment section below.